Hello everybody, it's Axel here and welcome back to another video. Today's video is a bit different. We'll still be playing Onmyoji the card game, but it's not a gameplay video nor a deck showcase. In this video, I will try to explain to you guys some of the key components of this game. First of all is the keyword ability. Keyword ability was recently introduced into this game via the SSL form of Gaki and Hitorima. So this is a list of keywords ability. It has haste, piercing, double strike, range, first move, direct hit, hunt, pierce, unyielding, crit, fatal, lifesteal, veil, and barrier. So let's go over them one by one, shall we? First of all is haste. Haste basically allows the Shigami next attack to not cause any AWP. It will still cause the combat attempt, of course, but it will not cause any AWP and you still have 2 more AWPs left to do whatever you want. But one thing you have to keep in mind is that haste will wear off immediately after use. It basically means next attack. So if you attack it and haste will basically is basically gone from that Shigami, and the future attacks will still be the same. Will still cause 1 AWP and 1 assault attempt. Unless it is specifically stated that haste is in effect permanently. So this is the only case when after you attack you still have haste on it. But normally it will only count towards the next assault and it will be gone after it. So next up we have piercing. Piercing basically allows the Shigami, if your Shigami has piercing and it attacks a Shigami with less defense than its attack, then the exceeding amount will count towards the player's HB. For example, is Hitorima form right now, it has piercing, so the excessive damage will be transferred into the player. So normally, if you have higher attack than the opponent HB, and if you attack it, the defensive Shigami will just die and the player will not take any damage. But if you have piercing on, you attack it and your attack is higher than its HB, then the exceeding amount will be dealt to the player's HB. Piercing also works with unyielding. So if the Shigami has unyielding, which we will go towards a bit later, but if the Shigami has unyielding and you attack with piercing, then the exceeding amount will still be dealt to the player's HB. Next on the list we have double strike. So double strike basically allows the Shigami to attack twice. That's it. It will attack twice, but there are a few interactions that you have to know is that the first attack will always happens first. So normally if you don't have double strike and 2 Shigami attack, they will deal damage to each other at the same time and they will still take damage at the same time. But if you have double strike on, the first attack will be dealt first without taking any counter damage. For example, is this form of Yotohime right here has double strike, so we deal an additional attack damage first. This is a very important word to remember. Say you have like 3 attack, for example, on this form, and the opponent Shigami only has 2 HP and you attack it with double strike, then the opponent Shigami will die without dealing any counter damage to your Shigami. This is a very useful ability and not many Shigami has it because it is exactly very strong. You basically and if you attack, like for example, directly to the opponent HB, it will then deal double the damage, and whatever attack effect that you have, it will trigger twice. That is one of the strongest part of this card, right, of the double strike, is that you basically attack twice and whatever attack effect you have, for example Lifesteal, it will trigger twice. Next on the list we have range. So range basically allows the Shigami to launch an attack in the standby zone, the zone that the 3 Shigami at the bottom and then there's the combat zone on top. Yep, that is the standby zone. So if a Shigami has range, it can launch an attack at a standby zone and the attack will still count normally. So it's basically a normal attack, but one thing you need to learn about range is that if you attack with range, you will still cause 1 AWP and you will still lose 1 assault attempt. It's not a special attack, but the Shigami that attack with range at the standby zone will not receive any counter damage whatsoever, even against other range Shigami. That is the very strong part of this ability. One of the main reasons why they use it. So in long story short, the Sigma that has range can attack from the standby zone, but it can only attack from the standby zone, and it will never receive any counter damage whatsoever. But if you attack with range, you risk having your combat zone open for direct damage. So make sure to keep that in mind. One of the most famous form that has range is the SSR form of Sakura. So basically, you can launch an attack in the standby zone without being counter-attacked. It's a very strong form. It just happens all the time, but the Shikimi with range will never go into the combat zone unless you have of a card, of course, but it will not normally go into the combat zone. So make sure to keep that in mind, because then your combat zone will be open for a direct attack. So next up, we have First Move. First Move was actually first introduced with Kuromucho and Shiromucho. In its SSR form here, it has First Move. So what a First Move does is that you will always deal attack damage first to the Sigame that doesn't have First Move nor Double Strike. So basically, First Move is half of Double Strike. That is just what it is. First Move is a half of Double Strike. Because if a Sigame has Double Strike and you have First Move, then it will just attack each other normally, but Double Strike will of course strike once more time. And the reason why First Move is so strong on Kuromucho is that it has Fatal, which we will go into later, but that is just basically what First Move is. In combat, they will attack damage the units that have First Move or Double Strike first. And please do keep in mind that both First Move and Double Strike works when being attacked, like in the defensive position. So basically, if you attack somebody with First Move, your Sigame will take damage first, and if it's died, you will have no counter damage. So that is basically First Move. It is a half of Double Strike, and it always deals damage first, unless if you attack another First Move user or a Double Strike user. Next up, we have Direct Hit. This is very self-explanatory. A Sigame with Direct Hit will only attack directly to the enemy player's HP, despite no matter how many Sigame they have in the combat zone. One example of this is this spell card of Jorugi Gozen. It gives all your Sigame direct hit. So basically, it can only attack directly to the player. So it's a kind of double-edged sword, but you just have the sharper side basically, because if you attack directly to the opponent health, the opponent's Shigami will not take any counter damage, so they can still have full health and freely attack you next turn. It still counter attack normally, so you do not counter attack directly, okay? If you have direct hits and the opponent's Shigami attack you, then your Shigami will still attack back normally. It only works when you are the ones attacking. So please do keep that in mind. That is all for direct hit. You attack the player health directly, but you cannot under any circumstances attack the opponent's Shigami. So it's a very double-edged sword like I just said, but your side is a bit sharper. Moving on to the next one, which is Hunt. Hunt is basically the opposite of direct hit. A Shigami with Hunt can only attack the opponent's Shigami, and it will never attack directly to the opponent's HP, okay? No matter if you have Hunt and the opponent's and 4 of the opponent's Shigami are dead, then you still cannot attack directly with Hunt. That is the main part of Hunt. One example of Hunt is this spell card by Hitorima. So when assaulting, select any of the opponent's Shigami to attack. Basically, you can select any Shigami even in the combat zone or in the standby zone, and you can basically attack it with it. But this attack will still count as a normal attack. So you will still go to the combat zone, and the opponent's Shigami, you can basically attack. And this is a very hard concept to explain, so let me try to get it right, okay? If the opponent has a Shigami in his combat zone and you have Hunt, when you select a Shigami in the standby zone of the opponent, you will normally attack it, but the opponent's Shigami in the combat zone will not be replaced. That is some of the interaction that you have to remember. The opponent's Shigami in the combat zone will not be replaced if you have hunt and you attack a standby zone Shigami of the opponent, and your Shigami will still take the counter attack normally, and you still take the damage back and whatever. If the opponent Shigami dies, it dies, and if your Shigami dies, it dies. This is a normal attack, but you can only attack the Shigami. And like I just said before, if every opponent's Shigami is dead, if your Shigami has hunt, it cannot attack directly to the opponent health. So please do keep that in mind about hunt. It's the exact opposite of direct hit, and you still, of course, you can still target the Shigami in the combat zone normally, but you wouldn't do that, and that is all for hunt. So after hunt, we will have Pierce, which I will just skip for now because I have to explain the other keywords ability first to understand Pierce. Next up, we have Unyielding. So Unyielding is best explained in the game actually. When your health is more than 1, at least 1 HP will be left when taking any damage. This skill will be removed then. So basically, the Shigami has, like, for example, let's take Sutendoji here. I have 5 HP, right? And attack with Unyielding. If the opponent Shigami has 6 attack or 7 or even 100 attack, then Sutendoji will always have 1 HP remaining. Like, he will always survive no matter what, and he still has 1 HP remaining. And there's some few very interesting interaction that you have to take into account of, is that, for example, if I have Sutendoji with 5 HP and I attack with Unyielding, and the opponent Shigami has 4 attack, for example, then Sutendoji will have 1 HP left, but the Unyielding is still on him, but it will not take effect after that because, well, as said here, Unyielding can only affect if your health is more than 1. But if Sutendoji then is healed up, then Unyielding still takes effect normally. So in conclusion, if you have Sutendoji will have 5 HP and attack with Unyielding against a Shigami with only 4 attack, then Sutendoji will still only have 1 HP left, but he still has Unyielding on. It is not taken off, but it will not take effect. But unless Sutendoji is healed up by any other cards, then the Unyielding will still work normally. That is what you have to remember with the interaction of Unyielding. One easier example is... Oh, sorry, this game is very rude right now. So, after I was rudely interrupted with the server disconnection, one example of Unyielding is with Chiminchu basic ability right now. So if my Chiminchu has 6 HP, I attack with Unyielding and the opponent Shigami has 5 attack, then Chiminchu will have 1 HP left, but he still has Unyielding on, and the next turn his health will be replenished and he will then the Unyielding will still work normally after that. The Unyielding can only be removed if the receiving damage is more than the actual HP you have left. So after Unyielding, we have Crit. Crit is very I think it's very weird in this day and age. I don't know, that just doubles the damage. But anyway, Crit basically, if your Shigami has Crit and it attacks, then it will deal double the damage. That's just what it is. One of the main examples of crit is Hanya. It basically double the attack damage dealt to the opponent when you have crit. It basically works for everything. So you have 3 attack and you have crit, then you attack a Shigami, you will deal 6 flat damage. If you attack directly to your opponent, you will also deal 6 flat damage. It's basically a weaker way of actually saying double strike, because, for example, if you have double strike and you attack a Shigami with Unyielding, like I just said earlier, then your first attack will remove the Unyielding, your second attack will kill the Shigami. But if you have crit and you attack a Shigami with Unyielding, no matter how much damage you have, how much damage you will deal, actually, the opponent with Unyielding will still always survive. But if you have crit and double strike, then it is another story, right? So that's basically what crit is, double strike all in once. You deal double the damage with your attack. I was thinking of any useful way that crit has over double strike, but I haven't thought of it yet, so if you can fix me in the comment below, please do help it. But basically, one thing you need to know about crit and also double strike is that it also works when being counter attack. So if you attack a Shigami, for example, Hanya here with crit, then she will counter attack back with 6 damage instead of 3. Of course, crit and stuff also works with piercing and haste and double strike and range. They all works together, even direct hit and hunt. So next up, we have Fatal. Fatal is a very easy keyword to know. Actually, basically, you deal any damage with a fatal attack because only attack. There are no spell card here that have fatal. Basically, if you deal any damage with a fatal effect, then the receiving Shigami will die instantly. So this is an example of fatal. It will defeat the Shigami that took this damage, and the reason why it's so strong on death sentence is that it has first move. So he always deals attack damage first, and then the fatal effect will take in and will basically kill the Shigami, no matter what kind of effect it has on. If the Shigami has done yielding and it receives a fatal damage, then it will die, of course. But there's one strong counter to fatal, which is Samurai X, because fatal only takes effect if it deals attack to the health of this opponent's Shigami. But if you have a bunch of shields, for example Samurai X here, then if you attack on the shield, it technically counts that your attack doesn't deal any damage, so fatal will not take into effect of this turn. So this is what you need to remember when using the fatal card, is that choose your opponent, because if Samurai X, for example, and other Shigami just have a bunch of shields on, and you attack with fatal and you cannot hurt the HP of Samurai X, then the Samurai X will not die. That is one of the main points of fatal, but most of the case, the opponent, if you attack with fatal, you will win 199% of the time. Of course, one thing you need to remember with fatal is that you still take the counter damage. It only works with the SSR of Kuromucho and Shiromucho where he has first move. But normally, if you attack with fatal, you will still take the counter damage. And if you deal damage into the opponent HP, then the opponent Shigami will die immediately. Fatal can of course be countered by other cards that basically nullifies the damage. For example, Destructing Thrill here. If you attack and the opponent has Destructing Thrill on the combat Shigami, then the fatal will not take into effect because you do not deal any damage. So make sure to remember that fatal can only work if you deal damage to the opponent's Shigami HP. This is the main core of fatal, and if you do that, the Shigami will die immediately. So that is the main core of fatal that you have to understand. Next up, we have Lifesteal. Lifesteal is basically a vampire move. It's very vampire. So vampire is one of the main use of Lifesteal. Basically, any card with Lifesteal, when it deals damage, the player, basically you in this case, will recover HP to the same amount. The reason why we say it's card with Lifesteal because Lifesteal can also exist in spells card, of course. And this, you have to remember that this also works in counter attack. So if you attack a Shigami with Lifesteal, then basically, for example, this card here, then the opponent player will also receive 3 HP in return. So that is Lifesteal. How much damage you deal will be converted. How do I say that? Okay, I just messed up myself, okay? So basically that is Lifesteal. If your Shigami has Lifesteal and it attacks, then you will regain the same HP and its attack damage. And it also works with spell card, of course, because of Vampira SSR, which is Scarlet Moon. So just your spell card against Lifesteal. So this is one of the main cards, one of the strongest card of Vampira, of course. Any card with Lifesteal will deal damage. I am just repeating myself at this turn, so let's move on. So that was Lifesteal. Any Shigami with Lifesteal, if it deals attack damage or any spell damage, then you, the player, will recover the same HP. Next we have Veiled. I couldn't find any Shigami that has Veil except for Karu, and I think some other Shigami even has it. Basically, what Veil does is that a Shigami with Veil will be will like it cannot be targeted by the opponent's spell cards. It can still be attacked, so please do keep that in mind. So if you have Veil and the opponent has Hunt, they still attack you normally. It still can be attacked, and it just cannot be targeted by spell card. Targeted is a very like keywords you have to remember because let's take Yuko for example. With cards like double slash due to the method secret made them like this card again. Cards like this require a target to activate. So if your Shigami has Veiled, then it's basically immune to cards like double slash. But for cards like his SSR deals 2 damage to a random opponent unit, then if your Shigami has Veiled, there's still a chance that it will take the damage. So you have to take into account of that. Is that Veiled your opponent, your Shigami with Veiled cannot be targeted by spell card, but it still can take damage from spell cards. That is the key difference you have to remember. And also card like Saw here from Huka, then if you have Veilon, it still takes the damage whatsoever. It doesn't help in this case because this deal 1 damage to own opponent Shigami. But cards like Phoenix Flame here deal damage to a Shigami. This means that this card requires a target, then your Veiled Shigami will be safe. That is basically Veiled. Next we have Barrier. There are no other Shigami that has Barrier except for the keyword user, which are Hitorima and Gaki, and also Otakemaru with his Earth Magic card. This is basically Barrier because when you activate this card, your Shigami will have the same effect as the Barrier effect. So it means is that you will immune to the next damage. The next damage as in anything, attack damage and spell damage, the Barrier user will be immune to it. But Barrier will wear off after 1 use, of course, that way it says next damage. And one key point you have to take into account of Barrier is that you will not receive damage no matter how much damage is dealt. Also, how little damage is dealt, you will still be immune to it. What I'm trying to get here is that the strongest counter to Barrier is of course my boy Hitotsume here. So if you read Hitotsume basic ability, when he takes damage from an opponent's Shigami, then he will projectile and deal 2 damage, but he has 0 attack. So what's going on here? If Hitotsume attack an opponent's Shigami with Barrier on, then he will deal 0 damage to the Barrier, but the Barrier will still be removed. That's one of the most important interaction that you have to remember if you are a Barrier user. If Hitotsume, for example, or even anyone, or even anyone with just one attack, but that is very self-explanatory. So I'm just focusing on Hitotsume at this point. If Hitotsume with 0 attack your Shigami with Barrier, then the Barrier will still be removed normally because the Barrier will then receive 0 damage and then will be removed, and the Hitotsume projectile will deal 2 damage to the Shigami. So basically Hitotsume counters Barrier, but that's all you need to know about Barrier, is that you are immune to the next damage no matter what it is, no matter how much or how small it is. Even 0 damage is still count as damage. So please do remember when you are fighting against a Hitotsume and you have Barrier card on. So lastly, we have Pierce. There are no Shigami that actually have Pierce in this game except for the keyword user. It is Gaki and Hitorima, of course. So basically what Pierce does is very different from piercing. So please do not mistake the two because it's a very fatal move. But what Pierce does is that it basically ignores the ability of unyielding and Barrier. So when you have Pierce and you attack an opponent Shigami with unyielding, you kill it because the unyielding is then ignored. It also works with Barrier. So if an opponent Shigami has Barrier and you have Pierce on, you basically attack through that Barrier. The Barrier will not protect from anything, the Shigami still dies. But this keyword ability is rarely seen used because we're only at the SSR form of Gaki and Hitorima has it. And also up to that point there will be no other Barrier left on the game basically. So that is basically every keyword ability in this game explained. If you guys still have any like problem or any misunderstanding with the keywords, please do ask do just ask in the comments. Okay, I don't know what I have to say here because this game basically just this game still doesn't have any wiki. So the YouTube comment section is the only way we can get information. So basically this is the end of the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and well, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.